Hey Guru Nation, so what if I told you that there is a fund headed by a 65-year-old woman who is dominating social media with her company ARK Invest, Cathie Wood, and three companies behind CRISPR, which is one of ARK Invest's biggest holdings. It's an exchange traded fund, ETF. Three companies with patents on the life changing, civilization changing, human being changing potential of life as we know it behind the CRISPR Cas9 technology. We're going to get into a little bit of that in this video. Uh, the three companies combined with the patents on this technology have about a $7 billion market cap. And when you put it into context, Apple, just Apple, that I'm using right now and we all love, or half of us love, that's a $1 trillion market cap. And as great as Apple is, like Cathie Wood says, it's not saving lives. Okay, so let's get into who Cathie Wood is a little bit. She has 5 ETFs, ARKG for ARK Genomic Revolution ETF. So, what is ARK Invest? Founded by Cathie Wood. Cathie Wood's LinkedIn profile says she's been doing portfolio managing, hedge fund managing since the 80s, since 1980. She's 65 years old right now. And she started ARK Investment in 2014, 7 years ago. I just posted about this on my LinkedIn. Rising star investor. It's funny how somebody who's 65 years old is a rising star. That just goes to show you it's never too late, guys, to get started. I mean, here's somebody who had their head down their whole career managing portfolios, went out on her own, and did it in an industry. To say it's dominated by males is an understatement. Okay, financial hedge fund world. This lady has really become a superstar, a personal hero of mine. I recommend everyone to go follow on LinkedIn, follow ARK Invest on all the social media. They are killing social media too. My Patreon members know this. So there's a lot to get into. Rising star investor Cathie Wood has changed the rules for exchange traded funds, which usually have modest expectations about return. Kaplinger added that people who invested $10,000 in any of Wood's 5 ARK Invest active ETFs would have more than doubled their money in 1 year. And then the one that we're going to focus for this video is ARK Genomic Revolution ETF. This has given shareholders the best of all ARK Invest funds. A $10,000 investment has become $29,000 since February of 2020, so about a year ago, exactly a year ago. Wood is betting heavily on genomic stocks. The biggest upside surprises are going to come from the genomic space, and that's because the convergence of DNA sequencing, artificial intelligence, and gene therapies are going to cure disease. This is what Wood said in an interview, a very famous interview now with Bloomberg. We have three technologies converging at once, and ARKG is putting itself in a position to provide gains for investors by DNA sequencing, artificial intelligence, and gene therapy. CRISPR Therapeutics, which requires a video on its own, is a large holding in ARKG and the third largest holding in ARKK. She likes CRISPR so much she has it in 2 of her ETFs. CRISPR is one of several gene editing companies, along with Editas Medicine and Invitae Corporation. Twist Bioscience makes synthetic DNA. One of the most recent additions to the ARK Genomic ETF is Viva Systems. Viva Systems is crushing what they're doing as far as clinical research is concerned. They're making it easier for clinical researchers. They're making clinical research studies more efficient. They're really trying to be the end-to-end solutions provider for running a clinical trial and everything else that goes with it. So Viva, I have to do a deep dive into Viva at some point, but it's a cloud-based company focused on pharmaceutical and life sciences. It's a vendor, what I would call a vendor in clinical research, but it might be the vendor that is able to pull off complete end-to-end. A whole nother topic right there for Viva Systems. And by the way, critical to the ARKG thesis is Wright's law. Specifically, it states that for every cumulative doubling of units produced, cost will fall by a constant percentage. Why is this important? This is important because the cost of DNA sequencing, the cost of artificial intelligence, and the cost of gene therapy are all going down. So let's look at the big idea slide that Cathie released, ARK Invest released, and specifically as it pertains to, there's only 3 sections that pertain to ARKG really: long read sequencing, um, and we're going to learn the difference between LRS, which is long read sequencing, and SRS, short read sequencing. Long read sequencing could provide a more complete picture of the human genome. Next generation DNA sequencing is the driving force behind the genomic revolution. Though historically dominated by short read sequencing, ARK believes that long read sequencing will gain share at a rapid rate. ARK believes long read technology offers superior accuracy, more comprehensive variant detection, and a richer set of features than short read platforms. By the end of 2025, highly accurate long and short read sequencing should approach cost parity. We estimate that long read revenues will grow 82% at an annual rate from 250 million in 2020 to roughly 5 billion in 2025. So the genomic toolkit is expanding to provide a fuller, richer, and more accurate view into biology. This is actually one of Cathie Wood's ARKG's biggest holdings, Pacific Biosciences. This is probably worth a look into the stock by itself, its own video. If we look at the ARK Holdings, Pacific Biosciences for ARKG, here's the entire ARK Genomic Revolution multi-sector ETF holdings as of February 23rd, 2021. If you notice, Pacific Biosciences is number 2. Historically, researchers had to choose between accuracy with short read sequencing or comprehensiveness with long read sequencing. Both LRS and SRS break the genome into smaller fragments, analyze the fragments with high resolution optics, and reassemble the genome with efficient computer algorithms. So you see how DNA sequencing and AI, and now what do we do with this information? We have gene therapy. All these 3 technologies are converging, and this is where you see this happening. As costs for LRS converge with SRS, many clinical applications could shift to LRS. So remember Wright's law. Every cumulative doubling in data produced on its installed base, the cost of synthesis-based LRS has declined and will continue to decline by 2020. So it'll be less than $1,000 estimated by 2023. According to ARK's estimates, the cost to sequence a whole genome with long read technology will drop to $100 to $200, and its accuracy superior to SRS across all variant types by the end of 2025. Many rare diseases, I keep saying the future of clinical research is going to be in rare diseases, and obviously gene therapy. Many rare diseases which affect 350 million people globally are genetic in origin. ARK expects the LRS market to grow at an annual rate of 82% through 2025. LRS revenues could expand from 250 million to 5 billion by 2025. They obviously believe that PAC Biosciences is one of those companies as their second biggest holding right now, Pacific Biosciences. So multi-cancer screening, liquid biopsies could prevent more cancer deaths than any medical intervention in history. This is another thing, another big idea for 2021 that ARK is investing in. A multi-cancer screening protocol could avert 66,000 cancer deaths per year in the US, saving 1.4 million human life years. So this is healthcare and longevity. You could see how the sequencing combined with the AI and the therapy, diagnosed early, cancer can be treated successfully. So again, this is where Cathie Wood says in the very near future, we're all going to have geneticists. When these tests are only $250 by 2025, right? You're all going to have a geneticist, even if your insurance doesn't cover it. Most people will pay $250. But I'm sure insurance will cover this because it's prevention and this is what they like. It saves them money in the long run too. The weighted average 5-year survival rate for localized cancer is 89%, but only 24% for metastatic cancer. So you got to catch it early. It's going to be easier and cheaper to do this by 2025. Based on a single blood test, multi-cancer screening can detect dozens of early stage cancers. So again, rapidly declining cost, multi-cancer screening is approaching a reimbursable price point. As prices drop below $1,000, nearly all age groups above 40 could be screened for cancer cost effectively, potentially saving up to 1.4 million human life years in the US alone. And then finally, we got cell and gene therapy, the second generation. We're in the early days. The second generation of cell and gene therapies should shift from liquid to solid tumors, autologous, which is from your own body, to allogenic cell therapy, which is off the shelf, and then ex vivo to in vivo gene editing. So within your own body, like just through infusions. Typically, cancer therapies are tested on liquid tumors first. Solid tumors, however, comprise 88% of diagnosed cancer. And because of AI, gene editing, and next gen sequencing, see these three technologies: DNA sequencing, AI, and gene therapy. All right, failure rates and time to market should fall, accelerating approval rates. Oncology trials are shifting from autologous to allogenic, so off the shelf. Gene therapy can shift from ex vivo to in vivo editing. Ex vivo modifies the patient's cells outside the body and then transplant them back into the patient. In vivo gene therapy modifies the patient's cells inside the body. ARK estimates that allogenic cells and cellular immunotherapies, you heard me talk about immunotherapy all the time, just casually, our CRA Academy internship is an immunotherapy breast cancer study. So let's look at ARK Genetics, ARKG Holdings, Teladoc, Pacific Biosciences, Exact Sciences, Regeneron, Twist, Roche, Vertex. So that's a sponsor. Novartis sponsor. Takeda sponsor. Viva, like I told you. CRISPR, like we're going to talk about. 10x Genomics, Beam Therapeutics, Bristol Myers Squibb, Alphabet. We have 57 holdings. And I bet you just individually, if we look at any 57 of those, we're going to find all kinds of stuff to talk about. So definitely wanted to tell you a little bit about ARKG, about some of the technologies. I definitely recommend everybody go follow Cathie Wood on Twitter. Definitely go follow Cathie Wood on LinkedIn. She only has 21,000 followers. Like how is this possible? If I have like 13,000. So, and I haven't done 1% of what she's accomplished so far. One final thing I wanted to talk about. So we have Pacific Biosciences. You can take a deep dive into their website. I'm probably going to do a video on that later. The era of genomic medicine. So this is a little bit about CRISPR, and we're going to actually save this for the CRISPR video because this one on ARKG is pretty long, and I know people's attention spans on YouTube is short. So we're going to go through this for CRISPR just to get like some of the science behind how CRISPR works. And we're going to look at CRISPR in another video. So that's like a teaser for CRISPR video. And I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share. This is important. This is not financial advice. And let me know what you guys think. Take care.